Jasmine Crockett walked into CNN headquarters knowing exactly what was waiting for her. Ann Coulter, locked and loaded, ready to humiliate her on national television. The next 18 minutes wouldn't just silence one of conservatism's loudest voices. It would ignite a political firestorm and possibly birth a new Democratic icon. The 33-year-old Congresswoman from Texas had been dragged through the mud by conservative media for months. Sean Hannity had dubbed her a TikTok Democrat. Fox panels rolled their eyes anytime her name came up. And Coulter? Coulter wanted blood. She'd been circling this showdown for weeks, hyping it on social media, teasing it in interviews. "I'll destroy her in 5 minutes," she'd bragged on Joe Rogan's podcast, a clip that racked up over 10 million views. She's a diversity hire with zero intellectual weight. It was all fun and games for the right-wing ecosystem until Crockett requested the debate herself. Inside CNN's iconic Anderson Cooper 360 studio, the stage was set. Coulter, 62, wearing her trademark smirk and tailored black blazer, radiated veteran confidence. She'd spent the day at a midtown spa and lunching with her publisher, not a second spent prepping. "Please," she told her assistant, "I've ended senators' careers. I'll swat this little congresswoman like a fly." Her formula was time-tested. Belittle credentials, mock intelligence, goad emotions, then strike with a brutal one-liner. Meanwhile, Jasmine Crockett was in a different rhythm. No glam squad, no pre-show brunch. For 2 straight weeks, she'd turned her office into a war room. Her team combed through every Coulter book, podcast, column, tweet. They mapped out patterns, contradictions, hypocrisies. Crockett wasn't coming to survive the fight. She was coming to end it. As the lights dimmed and the countdown began, conservative Twitter was already on fire. MAGA memes were locked and loaded. Fox News producers were standing by to grab what they assumed would be Coulter's greatest hits. The culture war cannon was aimed squarely at Jasmine Crockett, and Coulter came in swinging. "The problem with today's Democratic Party," she began with her usual venom-tipped diction, "is they keep promoting people based on skin tone, not skill set. Jasmine here, she's a walking resume of what's wrong with that strategy." The camera panned to Crockett, seated in calm royal blue, silently jotting notes on a yellow legal pad like she was prepping cross-examination in a Dallas courtroom. Coulter leaned in, her tone sharpening. "She's been in Congress for what? A blink? Passed no bills. Accomplished nothing. She's basically a TikTok star with a staff badge." In the control room, producers anticipated the clip that would go viral on Hannity tonight. Twitter right-wingers were already tweeting, "Coulter wins again!" But Jasmine didn't flinch. She smiled, slowly, calmly, and kept writing. That's when Coulter, sensing blood, doubled down. "These Gen Z Democrats talk about lived experience. What experience? She's never run a business, never made payroll, never created a job. She's never felt real pressure. Yet here she is, telling Americans how to live." Coulter sat back, satisfied. Anderson Cooper looked to Crockett. "Congresswoman, your response?" 3 seconds of silence. Then Crockett looked up, her voice low, calm, like she had all the time in the world. "Are you finished?" The room froze. Coulter laughed, a little too loud. "Oh, please, don't tell me I hurt your feelings." But Crockett wasn't rattled. She leaned forward, tone smooth, composed. "No, you just reminded me of something my grandmother used to say back home in Dallas. Baby, when someone's got to tear you down to feel tall, you already know they're standing on shaky ground." The first crack in Coulter's facade appeared. Just a flicker, a twitch of the eyebrow. A shift in her seat. And Crockett kept going. "You said I went straight from law school to city council." Wrong. I spent 6 years in courtrooms, including 3 as a public defender, representing people who couldn't afford a lawyer, veterans, single moms, kids thrown into the system too young. I didn't just study criminal justice reform, I lived it. The audience was dead silent. Even Cooper looked surprised. And while you were having spa days and publishing books, Crockett continued, her accent sharpening slightly as her passion grew, I was in court at 7 a.m. fighting for clients no one else would touch. I've handled eviction cases, discrimination claims, and wrongful arrests. I've stood next to people who had lost everything and helped them fight to get just a piece of their dignity back. Coulter opened her mouth to interrupt, but Crockett didn't give her an inch. You say I've passed no legislation? Let's talk about that. I co-sponsored 5 bills that passed the House. I've interrogated corporate executives, held corrupt, police departments accountable, and fought for housing reforms in my district. But I don't measure impact by headlines or Twitter followers. I measure it by the families who sleep easier because of something I did. Coulter was blinking now, lips pursed. And let's talk about qualifications, Crockett added, her tone turning razor sharp. I didn't inherit a platform. I didn't coast in on celebrity or controversy. I got here by working cases no one else would take, by knocking on doors, by earning trust. And not once, not ever, did I build my name by tearing down other women. The silence in the studio was absolute. You could hear a pin drop in the control room. Coulter was frozen. No comeback, no smirk. Jasmine Crockett wasn't just defending herself, she was redefining what political strength looks like in 2025. And by the time Anderson Cooper pivoted to the next segment, Twitter had flipped. Crockett clapback was trending. Clips of her speech were spreading like wildfire. Democratic strategists were already drafting emails. The pundit who was supposed to be dismantled had just walked away with the mic. And maybe the moment that would define the next generation of political leadership. The studio murmurs swelled into a low current of tension. Anderson Cooper leaned forward, sensing the shift like a seasoned predator sensing the blood in the air. You said, I've never run a business, Jasmine Crockett began, voice steady, but rising like a tide. But I founded my own law firm at 28. No family money, no political handouts, just a $50,000 loan I personally guaranteed. The audience quieted. I hired staff, paid salaries, month after month, for 4 years. I represented tenants about to lose their homes, victims of workplace discrimination. I didn't do book tours, Miss Coulter, I did the work. Coulter blinked. Cooper glanced at her, then back at Crockett, whose words now carried the unrelenting rhythm of a closing argument. You talk about real-world experience? When's the last time you stayed up past midnight combing through legal code so someone's kid didn't end up homeless? When's the last time you worried about making payroll? The room shifted again. Something palpable. Conservative viewers leaned in, unsure. Liberals started recording. You claimed I passed 0 significant legislation. Crockett didn't flinch. Last year alone, I co-sponsored and passed 3 laws. The Veterans Mental Health Access Act for rural vets, a grant program that saved 2,000 small businesses in my district. The Community Internet Initiative, because in 2025, kids shouldn't fail school because they can't connect to the internet. Coulter opened her mouth to cut in, but the tide was against her. Crockett pressed forward, her voice steady but lethal. Those bills didn't pass by accident. They took months of negotiation, bipartisan collaboration, late nights in committee, not talking head segments or Instagram posts. Then came the body blow. You said I was handed a seat. But I beat a 6-term incumbent by 20 points in a primary. I knocked on 15,000 doors. I raised small donations while he took corporate PAC money. And I won, because voters were done with the status quo. The camera cut to Coulter's face, jaw clenched, eyes darting, the mask was slipping. These aren't talking points, Crockett said, voice finally cracking with passion. They're receipts. A visible gulp from Coulter. For the first time in years, the queen of televised takedowns looked like the one being taken apart. And Crockett, without raising her voice, turned to the camera. My constituents didn't send me to Washington to trade sound bites. They sent me to solve problems, healthcare, jobs, education, infrastructure. But when someone questions my right to serve, I respond with evidence." She paused, then added quietly, "Because that's what public servants do. We show our work." Cooper sat back. Coulter didn't speak, couldn't speak. And for the first time in her career, she didn't have a retort. The segment ended, but the story didn't. Within minutes, Twitter exploded. Crockett crushes. Coulter trended globally before the next commercial aired. The clip of Crockett asking, "When's the last time you made payroll?" hit 1 million views within the hour. TikTok flooded with stitches. Instagram posts showed Coulter's stunned expression captioned simply, "Receipt. Delivered." But this wasn't just another viral political moment. This was a tectonic shift. Within 30 minutes, every major network requested interviews with Crockett's office: MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS. Donors nationwide flooded her Act Blue. People who'd never heard of her now knew her name and wanted more. Meanwhile, Coulter's Twitter feed went dark. Not a single follow-up post. Her usual cheerleaders on the right, silent. The digital noise turned to digital shame. Even her publisher delayed her upcoming book tour. The reactions were telling. Rick Wilson tweeted, "That wasn't a debate. That was a reckoning." 75,000 retweets in an hour. Joy Reid posted, "Crockett just gave the Democratic Party a masterclass in how to show up prepared." 200,000 likes. Ben Shapiro, ever the contrarian, reluctantly admitted, "She came prepared. Coulter didn't. Simple as that." When his followers turned on him, he stood his ground. Facts, feelings, Coulter got outworked. And Steve Bannon? He posted, "Say what you want about her, but that Crockett woman came to fight. Coulter came with a wet napkin." The post vanished in minutes. But screenshots? Immortal. By midnight, BBC had run a piece titled, "How Jasmine Crockett Redefined the American Debate." The Guardian's headline, "The Night the Pundit Died. Crockett Ends the Coulter Era." France's Le Monde called it a generational reckoning. But the most devastating analysis came from GOP defector Steve Schmidt. His viral thread read, "This wasn't just a beatdown. It was the death of a strategy. Coulter's brand of provoke and retreat got dismantled by preparation and professionalism. This is the future of American politics. Cable news producers scrambled. Podcasts begged for a booking. SNL skits were already in pre-production." Overnight, Crockett's approval in her district jumped 12 points. By morning, the House Minority Leader had called her personally. Schumer praised her in a floor speech. Coulter? Her column was delayed. Her bookings dropped. Her speaking fees, once 5 figures, quietly fell 30%. Fox News didn't air a clip. Tucker didn't mention it. Hannity gave it 12 seconds of airtime. Silence. Where noise used to be, analysts called it a paradigm collapse, a change in political currency. No more shout-fests, no more empty provocation. The new era belonged to those who did the reading, who showed their receipts, who didn't blink under pressure. Crockett didn't just win. She rewrote the manual. 3 months later, she was appointed to the House Democratic Leadership Team, the youngest ever. At her first press conference, she said, "There are 2 ways to lead. You can tear others down, or you can do the work. I came to do the work." And America noticed. Political science programs began dissecting the debate. Law schools taught it as real-world cross-examination. Communications courses labeled it the Crockett Method. Harvard Business Review published How Calm Crushes. Chaos, the Crockett Case Study. Netflix announced a limited series on young women in politics. Crockett's story serving as a blueprint. Her book, Prepared How Facts Beat Fiction, became a bestseller in 2 weeks. Outselling Coulter's latest 3-to-1, the market had spoken. A 33-year-old black congresswoman from Texas didn't just survive a media ambush, she turned it into a masterclass. A moment became a movement. A viral clip became a cultural shift. The real question isn't whether Crockett won that night. It's whether America is ready to follow her lead. If the explosion of young leaders citing her as their North Star is any indication, then we're already living in a different era. Because Crockett didn't just end a debate. She ended a decade of political spectacle and replaced it with something that just might save democracy: preparation, integrity, facts.